Another part of the ultimate compressor guide. In this video, the best and cheapest analog vari-mu compressors. Let's get to it. Hello everyone, welcome back to MixbusTv. Hope you're having a great day. I'm very happy you guys like this new series on compression and compressors. Make sure you watch all the other videos in the playlist to see all the differences between the various topologies, PWM, FET, Opto, vari-mu, diode bridge, and so on. For each video on topology, we cover the main applications, my favorite uses for both plugins and hardware. Before we start, check the info box down below for my mixes on ProMix Academy and special offers and discounts on plugin. And now you can see here there's a button that says join. You can become a MixbusTv member if my videos are helping you. You want to support the channel, but most important, you want access to exclusive content like members only posts, videos, chats, and even mix consultation via email or live stream. Click the join button. There are several tiers with different perks. Take a look at what it's about. But let's get to the video. In this list, we will find the behemoths. So many massive compressors in this category, massive in size and sound. Originally called Delta-mu, Manley trademarked the name vari-mu, which is how we know this type of compressors nowadays. Because of their design, they use tubes for actual gain reduction as opposed to just color. These compressors tend to be expensive, but they are the real deal, the full tube compressor by definition. The main characteristics of vari-mu compressors are a very smooth and natural gain reduction. They can handle high amount of gain reduction without artifacts. They're also known because they use tube for gain reduction to add a very pleasant color to the material. They are a go-to for vocals for sure, and for bass, and for anything that needs more of a leveling action than a snappy compression action like a VCA or a FET. In fact, doesn't matter how fast you set vari-mu compressors, they tend to be slow. The way I personally like to use vari-mu compressors, even though I don't have on hardware right now, but one might be coming soon, is on single tracks like vocals and bass. I can go very high with a gain reduction because of how natural they sound. But for two bus and groups, I don't like to use them for more than 1 dB of gain reduction. Needle barely moving, maximum 2 on the highest peak. Because of their slow nature and smooth action, I feel for most modern genre, that's the best use for them because they do add a special glue, especially because of the tubes. They had harmonics, they had some sort of enhancement, but pushing too much into them, like 4 to 6 dB as you would with a VCA compressor on the mix bus or on groups, I feel you can hear the compression being a little too slow. And if it's a slow song, that might work, but for example, for the famous Manley vari-mu, you would want an HPF, maybe a T-bar mod. So in general, generally speaking, for complex material, I like to be conservative with the gain reduction. On single tracks, you can push them a lot, and we will see some of them. There are go-tos for vocals, for example, that give their best when pushed because of the color, because of their action. But let's get to the list. At the top, there could be nothing else but the holy grail, the Fairchild 670. With 20 tubes and 11 transformers in it, in a 6-rack unit size, this monster weighs over 65 pounds and is the godfather of all compressors. This compressor has been used on everything from vocals, two-bus, bass, pianos, you name it, and it can enhance pretty much any material, and it better be for how much it costs. You can still find a used vintage unit, but be ready to drop at least 30 grand for one in working condition. There are many great reissues and replicas today. They're still expensive, but a lot less than the original vintage unit. They're brand new units. They don't need that much maintenance. You can still find the part if you needed. One that I had the chance to try and work with recently was the UTA Fairchild, actually Unfairchild is called. Undertone audio, and it sounds amazing. In second place, probably one of my favorite color compressor, especially for vocals and bass, the Retro Instrument 176. Many know this compressor as the tube version of the 1176, which is a FET compressor. But because of the tubes in the gain reduction signal path, we can put this one in the vari-mu category. One of the reasons because I really like the 176 is not just the color and the build quality of retro instruments in general, it's because differently from other vari-mu hardware compressor, this one a variable attack and release, which makes it very versatile. It's great for tracking, especially vocals and bass, even with high amount of gain reduction, because what we said, the vari-mu compression is very natural. And if you notice, vari-mu compressors don't have a ratio. So there's a fixed ratio, actually a variable ratio, and it changes as you change the input. So it depends how hard you hit the compressor. That's also why the gain reduction on vari-mu sounds like nothing else. So the main application for this one would be bass and vocals for me. That's where it shines. I actually prefer it on vocals more often than the ubiquitous LA2A. It's a great color compressor built like a tank, and while it has a vintage sound and color to it, it also has a very hi-fi bandwidth. So check it out. Number 3, probably the most famous vari-mu compressor because they actually trademarked the name, the Manley vari-mu. This of course is another full tube compressor built like a tank, like all Manley gear. You can find it with several modifications, T-bar, as we said before, HPF filter, and even mastering version. This compressor is pricey, but it's justified because the manufacturing and the components inside are top-notch. You see it very, very often in mastering rigs. That's actually where all the mods came from, because mastering engineers were asking for them. Is used often on the 2-bus for mix. Because of that, I would say the main use for the vari-mu is either MixBus, so the full mix compression, or mastering. The color on this one, it really depends on how you set the input and output controls. That's like the key of using the Manley vari-mu and get the best out of it. Number 4, Chandler RS124. One of the latest to come out. Chandler makes great stuff, we all know that. The original RS124 was never commercially available. It was built inside and for Abbey Road Studios. This compressor gained popularity the second that it was available. Chandler has been working with Abbey Road Studios and recreating legendary gear for years, so everybody knew this was going to be a hit. I only tried this compressor once in a trade show, but it was enough. This compressor just sounds big and then bigger. It's thick and creamy, and you can drive it really hard. The saturation is something you have to hear for yourself. The more you push it, the more color you get out of it, and it's a beautiful color, and it feels like it has endless headroom because it never folds. It's a different color from the 176, which is more hi-fi, still vintagey. This one is more gritty, but somewhat bigger. It's hard to put this down in words, but again, this, as all vari-mu, again, it would be a go-to on vocals for tracking too. So vari-mu, you see the trend. They are great for tracking because how natural they are. But also for if you have a stereo pair, they're used on mastering a lot. They're used on piano. So complex material and very dynamic acoustic instruments. That's where I picture a vari-mu compressor to be at home. Number 5, another retro instrument compressor. This one is the Sta Level. For most people, this would be at the top. The Sta Level, originally Gates, has been one of the most sought after compressor of all times. Retro managed to capture all the magic of this unit, and I tried 2 original units. The Sta Level must be one of the most colored compressors out there, along with probably the successor here from Heritage that I've ever tried. And it's also one of the most loved, especially on vocals. I put it at number 5 because it's not that versatile. It's kind of a one-trick pony, but the problem is no other compressor can do that trick. It's just a Sta Level, and when you try it, you immediately know what I'm talking about. It feels like a combination of all the best vocal compressors out there. If you combine like LA2A and CL1B and 176 and add more color to it and some magic dust, that's what the Sta Level does. It's also great for guitars, acoustic guitars, and other than vocals and so many other instruments. It's thick and very colored, so sometimes it's just a little too much, and that's why I put it on number 5. But It's definitely a luxury item if you can afford it. This one is definitely a high-end piece of gear. If you look inside the unit, this is just a bundle of tubes and transformers built without cutting any corners, and it has a very unique sound, and the trick that it does on some material is almost magic. So check this one out. Number 6, a boutique unit that is quite popular among both mastering and mixing engineers, the Giraffe Audio Girotech X. I personally only tried this unit at NAMM. It has a very rich color. Giraffe Audio has some brilliant design, and its take on vari-mu, it's unique like all these gear. They are all hand-built and they have a unique look. You recognize the faceplate of Giraffe Audio immediately. If you're looking for a different kind of color for a vari-mu, this would be your pick. I don't feel like giving advice on how to use this, how many dB of gain reduction, because my experience with it is so little, but I know many engineers that I respect that use it and love it. And like I said, I did like it for the little time I spent with it, but it falls into the vari-mu category, so all the uses that we mentioned for the others fit this one as well. It has, as I said, a slightly different color. I would say more in the mid-high range, very tubey, not as thick and creamy as a style level, but definitely check it out. And now the cheapest vari-mu compressors. Because of the nature, the design of these topology, unfortunately there are not many cheap vari-mu compressors, but there are at least 2 choices that I can mention, and one is again another Retro Instruments, because they do this very well. It's the Retro Double Wide in 500 series. Now, I stated this before, I am not a fan, I haven't been a fan so far of tubes in 500 series because of the voltage, because of the heat, several things. I had the double wide for a while and it just didn't really click with me. I know they revisited it. I know they changed something in their design for the double wide. So I didn't try the new version. If that's true, for me, it's just a rumor. I didn't double check. But the first one for me was a little too, it worked as intended, as it behaved like a vari-mu compressor with the variable ratio depending on the input. It was very natural sounding in the action, but the color of it, it just didn't click with me for some reason. And I'm talking about the double wide Retro Instrument. But maybe they changed something in the new version and it's worth checking it out. And again, that was my personal taste. That was years ago when it first came out. So maybe if I try it now, I would like it. I don't remember. I remember it being a little mid-forward, which it's not what I wanted from a vari-mu compressor, because I had other compressors that were like that and I wanted something more closer to a style level. And it's kind of utopia to try to get a style level sound in 500 series, so it was probably my expectation, but it's a highly regarded unit. It's one of the cheapest vari-mu compressors available, so give it a try. The only other cheap, affordable vari-mu compressor is again another 500 series module, and is the IGS Tube Core 500. Unfortunately, I have zero experience with this one. I'd love to try it. The only reason because I'm aware of this compressor is actually because IGS contacted me not long ago, so I checked out their line, and but I have unfortunately zero experience. I don't know anything about this compressor, but it's worth mentioning because in this list we're putting also the cheapest, most affordable vari-mu compressor. This is one. It's a mono unit just like the double wide from Retro, so if you want a stereo you need 2 modules. In the next video, we're going to cover the best, my favorite vari-mu compressor plugins. If you have any question, leave it in the comments down below. Leave in the comments down below also your questions for the rapid fire and the live stream Q&A. I hope this video was useful. I hope you liked it. If you did, don't forget to leave a like. Check the info box down below. Click the join button if you want to become a MixbusTv member. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time.